So today's lesson, we're going to deal with 6.5, which is the law of cosines. The law of cosine is going to be another application of trig that allows you to solve solve regular triangles that you do not have the same information that you would when you try to use the law of sine. So looking at the triangle that they give us here, there's something that we need to look at. The type of triangle that we have here is a side, angle, side. Side, angle, side triangle. Can you find side C using the law of sines? So this is side C. The answer is no, because we don't have enough information. So when you don't have enough information, we look at the law of cosines. So the law of cosine formula. A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC cosine capital A. One thing I want you to notice about all three of these formulas, whatever side that you start with, you end with the corresponding angle. So if I start with side C, I'm going to end with angle C inside the cosine. Everything else in between is the opposite two sides. So if I start with side A, then the sides that are inside will be B and C. It doesn't matter what order you put B and C in, it's just as long as it's B and C, and then you end with that corresponding angle. Okay? The two types of triangles that we do this with are side, angle, side, and side, side, side. Okay, so let's just kind of jump into using this formula. So find side C. So we have side A, and we have side B. So I'm going to use that law of cosine formula to do this because this is a side, angle, side triangle. So that means I'm going to set it up as C squared equals A squared, which is 30, plus B squared, which is 29 squared, minus 2 times 30 times 29 times the cosine of C, 71. So if I type that all in the calculator, type this in the calculator exactly the way it's written. So C squared equals 117.4.5111411. Take the square root. C equals around 34.3. Remember to use 3 decimal places. Next, we want to find angle A. Well, up here, I've written it out how to find angle measurements. So if I want to find angle A, I'm going to do the cosine inverse. Because anytime I'm trying to find an angle, I'm going to use the inverse trig. So if I start with capital A, if I'm finding capital A, then inside the formula I'm going to start with little a, minus B squared C squared, divided by negative 2BC. So all of this is the other two sides. So I'm trying to find angle A. So I'm going to do A equals cosine inverse A, which is 13, minus 11 squared minus 21 squared, divided by negative 2 times 11 times 21. And I'll type that in the calculator. Remember to use your fraction bar. If you don't have the fraction bar, make sure you put parentheses around this piece, the top part. So A equals around 31.7 degrees. All right, the next. So we'll be using applications as well, word problems. So it says, what is the width of the marsh? So this is the value that I'm trying to find. Trying to find that x value. So I'm going to apply. Since this piece is 80, that means this angle has to be 100. So that means I'm going to use my law of cosine. What's the x squared equals 240 squared plus 380 squared minus 2 times 240 times 380 cosine of 100. X squared equals 233,673.4276. Take the square root. X equals 483.4. The distance from Raleigh to Phoenix is 1,897 miles. The distance from Raleigh to St. Paul, Minnesota is 984 miles. And the distance from St. Paul to Phoenix is 1,284 miles. What is the angle formed between Phoenix and Raleigh? So this is going to be your 1,897. This is going to be your 984. And this is going to be your 1,284. Well, the angle says, what is the angle formed between Phoenix and Raleigh? So that's going to be this angle here. So that's what we're trying to find. So we'll call that A. So A equals cosine inverse A, little a, which is 1897 squared, minus 1284 squared, minus 984 squared, divided by negative 2 times 1284 times 984. And we type that in the calculator. And that angle is about 112.9 degrees. Make sure your calculator is in degree mode. Next piece, it says sketch and solve the triangle. So A, B, C. So this is 120. Little b is 9, and little c is 5. So again, this is another side angle side. So the next thing we're going to find is little a. Set it up in the law of cosine. A squared equals 9 squared plus 5 squared minus 2 times 9 times 5 cosine of 120. So A squared equals 181. And A equals 12.3. I'm sorry, that's 151. Okay, so now that we know that, we know little a is 12.3. Now we can find capital C, or capital B, whichever one you want to find first. So you can use the law of sine to do this, or you can stick with the law of cosine. For the sake of knowing how to do the law of cosine, we're just going to use that. So we'll find B, cosine inverse, 9 squared minus 5 squared minus 12.3 squared, over negative 2 times 5 times 12.3. And that equals around 39.3 degrees. So C, we're going to add 120 and 39.3 together, subtract that from 180, and so C is about 20.7 degrees. Finally, we have one more triangle, so sketch and solve. So this is a side-side-side triangle, so we'll start by finding the angles. So let's find angle A. So that's going to be 24 squared minus 18 squared minus 40 squared over negative 2 times 18 times 40. And A equals 20.6 degrees. Let's find B. squared minus 24 squared minus 18 squared over negative 2 times 24 times 18. And B equals 144.1. So I'll add A and B together and subtract from 180, and C equals 15.3 degrees. Okay. So next it says find the value of x using various trigonometric methods. So what we need to do, we need to look at these two things. These tell us that these two lines are parallel. So that means this angle and this angle are the same value because alternate interior angles are congruent if they are parallel lines cut by a transversal. So we want to find out what that angle measurement is. We're going to call this A, B, and C. So we need to find out what C is. Because if we know what C is, we can use our basic trig to find out what X is. So let's find C. So C equals, since it's an angle, cosine inverse, using our law of cosine, 35 squared minus 41 squared minus 54 squared over negative 2 times 41 times 54. So that means C is going to equal 40.4 degrees. So this is 40.4 degrees. So since I know that, this has now become a right triangle. And I know that this is the adjacent side to x, and 41 is going to be the hypotenuse. So that means the cosine of 40.4 equals x over 41. Multiply both sides by 41. And x equals around 31.2. That's how you solve that. So remember that your law of cosine, I've kind of given you two formulas for this. One to find the sides and one to find the angles.